Hello and welcome to Scran, the podcast passionate about the Scottish food and drink scene. I'm your host, Rosalind, and on this episode we're looking at going sober. Yes, it's all around us as dry January takes hold, and whilst it's not for everyone, there is no denying it's become more and more popular in recent years. I spoke to two entrepreneurs about their alcohol-free businesses to hear more about the growth in this industry. First up, I chat to Sonja Mitchell, founder of Jump Ship Brewing. A company born of a need for good quality, tasty, alcohol-free beer, Sonja shares how she came to set up the business, the challenges she's faced since then, as well as the huge opportunity she has grabbed and where she plans to go with it next. I'm now joined by Sonja from Jump Ship Brewing. Hi Sonja, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
I don't know about you, but I'm absolutely freezing. I realise I need to put the heating on. It's one of those days.
I'm sitting here with a coat and scarf on.
So for anyone that doesn't already know, you're a massive success story within the Scottish food and drink industry. You just recently opened a brewery. But do you want to just take us to the start of Jump Ship, how it all came about?
Yeah, well, it kind of started way back in dry January 2018 when I took a month off the booze and went on a discovery into the world of alcohol-free beer. I'd previously discounted alcohol-free beer as pretty distasteful and not worth bothering with. But I'd heard a couple of friends say, oh, I started drinking alcohol-free beer. And I'm like, okay, I'll do dry January. We'll get the mixed cased. And started drinking lots of different alcohol-free beers. And most of them were still pretty disappointing. But I found a couple that were okay. And so I started drinking alcohol-free beer. And thinking, oh, this is great. I'm still kind of having a Tuesday night beer and I don't feel bad the next day. But I was drinking a German lager. I've moved to Scotland. I've made Scotland my home. Love discovering all the breweries up here. And I'm like, why am I not being able to drink the great craft beer that I'm used to drinking just because I don't want the alcohol? And then I started looking around and going, well, no one's doing this. And I'm really annoyed, and well, maybe I could do it. And I don't know why, but it just kind of took hold of me and became something that I really, really wanted to do, to sort of to see if I could brew an alcohol-free beer that was better than was out there already, and quite selfishly would be the beer that I wanted to drink.
And you did, and it's been a great success. So was it? So what was your first one, and how did you get into it? Because was brewing in your sort of past, or was it all very brand new?
No, I was incredibly naive and had no idea what I was taking on. I didn't really know how beer was made beyond sort of water, barley, yeast, and hops. So I didn't have a background in brewing or the drinks industry either. But I found somewhere that did a sort of a startup brewing course down in Sunderland, and I went along and did that and totally fell in love with the biochemistry and the kind of how with just those 4 ingredients you can get such a range of styles and flavors. I also realized that my technical knowledge was not going to get me the beer that I wanted. So I met a brewer while I was down there, actually, who was willing to work with me on developing the recipe. So I kind of gave him the specification of the style of beer I wanted, the hops, the colour, the level of bitterness. And he developed 3 different versions. One was terrible, one was okay, and one was brilliant. And every time I shared the beer with friends or with like my local bottle shop, everyone was like, this beer is amazing. And that really gave me the courage to say, right, I'm going to do this and take the next big step, which is to scale it commercially. That took a year. It was really difficult. It was very hard to find a brewery in Scotland that could take me on and that had capacity or the inclination to have a go at an alcohol-free beer, because this is back in 2019 where brewing alcohol-free beer at a craft level it was very, very new. Very few people knew how to do it. So a kind of a steep learning curve. I kind of realized that I would need to get much more involved because I was the one that really cared about producing the beer and making sure it's good enough. So we had a fair few failed batches. I worked with a couple of different breweries, but we got there in the end. So it was December 2019 when I finally launched with what was Yard Arm Lager. And that went on to win Best in the World at the World Beer Awards in 2021. So that was a real moment of me, like all that hard work and all of the time when I said not accepting low quality, always pushing for it to be the best. That was a real moment that, this was worth doing. And then I gradually grew the range from that quite slowly to begin with, because we didn't have our own brewery to begin with. I was kind of brewing on contract. But I always wanted to have our own brewery. I think for me, the quality of the liquid was everything, the flavour. And it's such a new area of brewing to not have that knowledge in-house, to not be able to experiment and to push boundaries. And making mistakes is important, because that's how you learn how to make things better. And I wanted all of that learning to be in-house. So I think it was, start of 2023, I sort of took the plunge. I went live with a crowdfund on a platform called Cedars. Absolutely terrifying. You just don't know if people are going to respond. But it took off and got a really good response and raised £366,000, which was the funds to go and install the brewery. And was really lucky with the place I found to be the home for Jump Ship. So the location is out in Mid Lothian, just outside Edinburgh, on the Preston Hall estate. We're on a farm, part of a community of other makers and producers, and brewing on renewable energy. So the site we found had a big biomass boiler right next door to it, which is brilliant from both a renewable energy perspective, but also having gone through the huge spike in energy prices following the Russian invasion of Ukraine. I mean, I was at a point where I wasn't sure I was going to be able to continue with the business because energy prices were so high. So to be able to find a home with a secure, locally sourced supply of energy has been really important for us. And also to kind of build the team. We've got now 3 brewers in our team. And to do that experimentation, I think we brought out 15 different beers and counting now. So, the lager and the IPA, the hazy pales are kind of the core part of our range, but I'm also really proud of some of the sort of the fruited sours and things like that we've done, which are really quite experimental and alcohol free. So we're using sort of lactic fermentation as well as yeast, loads of fruit and all the sorts of things that can cause problems in an alcohol-free beer, but really give a complexity of flavour that you just wouldn't expect to find at less than 0.5 ABV.
And so that's, it is less than 0.5, which is like, they say there's more alcohol in like a banana. But how do you go about, because I find non-alcoholic beer tastes really good. Like the good ones taste really good, whereas non-alcoholic wine, I think, still kind of doesn't taste quite right. So how is it you go about making non-alcoholic beer, and why do you think that it is so much better, if you know what I mean, as a product now? Is it just been the amount of experimentation, or what do you think it is? Yeah, I think
it's there's been more investment up, in beer than there has been before wine. I think being a lower ABV beer is less alcoholic than wine. So the alcohol is a bigger part of the flavour and mouthfeel of wine, which I think is why de-alcoholized wines just generally end up with fruit juice. And I think, the way that we brew our beer, so we're not using any de-alcoholization technologies, which quite often affect the flavour, because by removing the alcohol, you're stripping out some of the flavour compounds as well. The way we do it is by controlling the fermentation. So we never produce the alcohol in the first place. So we do use yeast because yeast is a really important part of the flavour profile of beer. It's kind of what gives the beery flavour. Unfermented beer is kind of sweet and raw. But we are very closely controlling the fermentation by ensuring the yeast doesn't have too many sugars available to turn into alcohol, that the temperature the yeast operates isn't one in which you can get really excited and produce lots of alcohol. and also using types of yeast which are less good at using sugar and alcohol. So we're trying to get maximum flavour through fermentation, but minimal alcohol. So it's a really finely balanced thing, but I think it's a process that you can use in beer that you can't use in wine, or not yet. So I think that gives us a kind of an advantage in producing a drink that really reflects the quality you'd expect from a craft beer, whatever the ABV.
That's good to know, because I've always wondered, you see the wine's sort of a bit just like missing something in the taste, and whereas, the beer, I find the beer doesn't. So that's very, very interesting. Good to know. So what can you tell us a little bit about your range? So if you've gone from that one lager, which, am I right in saying, had a sort of sailing theme because you're a keen sailor?
Yeah, so there's a sort of nautical theme that goes throughout Jump Ship. We came up with the name based on my own story. I jumped ship from everything I knew to launch the business. I also wanted a name that was a kind of invitation to make a change. Don't be afraid to jump ship from mainstream drinking culture. And then that also took us into a nautical theme, and I love sailing. It's my happy place. So to combine beer and sailing in one brand is kind of what I love. So all of the beers have a nautical themed name. So our lager is called Yardarm, which is the spar and a mast on the boat. And when sun was over the yardarm in the olden days, that's when sailors got their first tot of rum on the boat. So our IPA is called Jackstaff, which is the name of a flagpole on a boat. And the can design uses the nautical signal flags. So all of the flags on our cans stand for letters. And if you want to, you can get nerdy about it and look up the meaning and sort of spell out some messages. So it's kind of adds a bit of fun and some nice nautical puns, which I enjoy.
Yeah, it must be fun coming up with the names.
Yeah. So we've got 4 beers in our core range. So we've got Yardarm Lager, Jackstaff IPA, we've got Stoker's Stout, and then we launched a Steamboat Hazy Pale Ale this year. So those are kind of our core beers that we have in stock all the time. And then since we've been in the brewery, we've been sort of doing more sort of limited editions, like the Ocean Drift Bramble Sour. It comes out in the summer. When it's gone, it's gone. We'll look to brew another sour this summer, but it'll be a new fruit. I don't know, maybe cherry, or got some ideas. And then we've been playing around with hop varieties, single hop IPAs. So we've done a Galaxy IPA and a Zaka IPA. I think for me, I love what hops bring in terms of the huge variety of different flavors. And what I really kind of aware of in the category that I'm working in, we've got people who've drunk beer all their lives drinking our beer, but there's also some people who are just looking for non-alcoholic drinks. So they're trying beer amongst lots of other things to see what they can drink that's suitable for an adult non-alcoholic drinking occasion. So to be able to kind of bring to life the excitement around hops and explaining what flavors they bring is a lot of fun as well. And then we've recently updated our Flying Colours. It's just kind of an amber style ale, which is, I don't think, a style that's, again, really been done much or very well in our category. So to have something that really brings to mind a really fine cask ale, using all British hops, all British ingredients, it's got that kind of amber colour to it, a nice bitter finish to it. Because I think for me, it's about choice and breadth. And, I like a lager, but I don't want to drink a lager all the time. And I love food. And I think being able to pair your drinks with food is really important, particularly, as you said, like most non-alcoholic wines don't hit the spot. So if you're having a special meal, what can you drink with it that's going to enhance what you're eating? So like having our stout with a aged steak or a sort of smoky vegetarian chili, it really bounces off the flavors and gives you a different experience. So kind of having that choice and variety and discovery for me is really important, because if you're someone who loves craft beer, you love the choice and the variety and the discovery. And I don't want any of that to stop just because you're not drinking alcohol.
Absolutely. I tried your Bramble Sour this summer up at Loch Fyne. They had it in their fridges, and it was so nice. We just sat. I'd never been before, so I should have been ages ago. But yeah, we sat outside with the dog, and it was really, really nice. It was lovely. So I look forward to the next one.
Oh, thank you.
So with the brewery, can people come and visit you?
Yes. So we've actually got some tours happening. I think it's the 24th of January this month. So we don't do them that often. So you can go and book on our website, and that's just sort of a good hour and a half of an introduction to alcohol-free beer, a tour of the brewery, a tasting. We also open as part of Rosalind Steading where we are. So we have quarterly markets. So you can come and enjoy lots of different food and produce. We have our pop-up tap room open, so you can come and sit, look at the fields and enjoy some pints. And we do kind of a few pop-up tap room events over the summer as well, when the wildflower meadows in bloom. It's a nice place to come.
And it's a lot warmer than this, hopefully.
I know. We tend to do less in the winter time.
And how have you? So, did you stop drinking completely, or are you sort of occasional?
Yeah, I'm still an occasional drinker. I think more because I, will occasionally want a nice glass of wine for the flavour, or a nice whiskey. But I'll sort of have an alcohol-free beforehand, and then I'll finish the evening with whiskey or something like that. So it's just kind of balancing out the alcohol. So it's just about the flavour and not the physical effects.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that these days. But do you find that the attitudes towards not drinking have sort of changed, improved, and are people maybe a bit more interested than they were, 5, 6, 7 years ago, just with maybe younger generations not drinking? Yeah,
absolutely. It's really changed, and I didn't imagine. I knew it was changing, but I never imagined it would change so quickly. So, when I first launched the business, there was quite a lot of people going, alcohol-free beer, what's the point? I got some really nasty comments on Facebook and things like that, and I was quite perplexed. I'm like, there's a lot of alcoholic breweries out there. You don't need to pick on this one. But I feel like we've really moved on from that. So yeah, of course, alcohol-free beer. Why wouldn't you? And just more and more people just you bring a non-alcoholic beer to a barbecue now, or if you've got friends coming over, you'll make sure you have something non-alcoholic in the house. So it's really normalised, and I think COVID had a part to play in that. I think May 2020 was the point at which people who'd been locked at home for a couple of months drinking too much. A lot of people drank the first few months of lockdown, and then there was a sense of, oh my word, this is still going on, and I feel awful, and I need to take control of something in my life, and my health is the best place to start, and alcohol is such an obvious place to look to change if you're looking to improve your own health. And I think people were ordering non-alcoholic beer online and trying it at home without any of that stigma of having to order it at the bar. And so I think people discovered alcohol-free drinks at home first, and then now are expecting better choices as they go out as well.
Yeah, definitely. And what are so people maybe would have heard you guys in the headlines with your take on Brewdog, which is all sorted now. So what are your sort of plans for 2026?
I think for me, it's about brewing more beer and being better known and getting our beer into more places. So far we've been mainly selling online and in bars and restaurants. So I think this is a year that we want to be more available in the shops. And also draft is a kind of a new and exciting part of the category that's opening up. When I first started, and if I mentioned alcohol-free beer on tap, people would think I was mad, but now we're seeing very steady every month growth in keg sales, as part of, again, just totally normalizing that drinking experience. And there's nothing more normalized than having a pint of alcohol-free beer, because it's not about the ABV. You're in a nice pub having a nice evening with your friends, you're having a pint. Who knows if it's 5% or 0.5%? It's the kind of the ultimate, really, for me. So it's kind of really exciting to see our beer on tap in more places.
Yeah, because sometimes that's what you need. You need the thing that doesn't say alcohol free, because the people who are like, why are you not drinking? Like, if you just show up with a pint, they don't know whether or not it's got alcohol in it.
Yeah. And I think what's really interesting is that I think initially pubs are like people aren't drinking, that's a threat to pubs. But I think actually there's so much evidence now that shows if you have good alcohol-free pee, more people will come out and they'll stay longer, and people might start the evening with an alcoholic pint, but then they'll switch to a non-alcoholic pint because it's not about getting drunk, it's just about having a nice social time with your friends. Yeah, I think it's just kind of an exciting time, and I think for me, our main drinkers are people who've always drunk beer, and I'm really excited to see more of the sort of younger drinkers who've never had an alcoholic drink coming in and trying a beer for the first time, not because of the alcohol, but because it's a really clean, healthy, natural drink, low in sugar, with this whole range of different styles and flavours to discover. So I think there's loads more to happen in this space.
Nice. Well, thank you very much. And thanks for your time. It was lovely to chat and meet you in person. Well, not in person, but meet you.
Thank you. So I hope we can welcome you at the brewery one day.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. It's not too far. So, yeah, I'd love to see it. I also spoke to Kate Kenyon, founder of Sobrbar in Aberdeen, the city's first alcohol-free bar. Kate tells me about how health challenges led her to giving up alcohol, and how that, combined with a distinct lack of social spaces for those who prefer not to drink, led her to opening the bar. She has faced unwarranted criticism, but despite this, she's found there's a really positive appetite for the service. Here's my chat with Sonja. By Kate from Sobrbar in Aberdeen. Hi Kate, how are you?
Hi, I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Just getting back into the swing of things after Christmas.
I know, it feels like we've been off for so long.
So we're going to chat a little bit about your business, which launched in late October, which is a non-alcoholic bar based up in Aberdeen. Obviously, quite a few people might be doing Dry January just now. So do you want to just give us a little overview on how the business came about?
Absolutely. So the first thing was basically my health. So I have chronic kidney failure, have done for a very, very long time now. And my first transplant failed I'm on my second one now, but my first one failed for a number of reasons. And one of them was not alcohol abuse, but abuse of alcohol. I was 19, I was a student, I was going out and having lots of fun with my friends, and I didn't realise the repercussions that had on my body and my kidney at the time. So I ended up losing that transplant, and I'm subsequently on my second. And I just kind of stopped drinking because it didn't, turns out I'm actually allergic to it. It didn't do any benefit at all. And I just kind of stopped drinking. Secondly, my best friend decided to go sober a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago. And through that process, we realized that there weren't any places really that made us feel really seen, heard, important, that were the main focus of hospitality in that sort of sober circle. And we're very, I've said this before, we're aesthetic girlies. We like our cocktails, we like going out, we like having our pictures taken and doing all this kind of stuff together. And we just didn't really have that. It was either just, watered down juice that we felt was there, or there wasn't that garnish element and there wasn't that sophistication. And that's kind of where it really stemmed from, was just being able to have a place where everyone felt very, very included and could be at ease, where there was no pressure to drink, but you still very much had that elevated, sophisticated feel of a bar, where you could just come and chill and have some really, really nice drinks, accompanied with some great snacks. And that's what it's been turned into. And I think our sort of customer base would say that it's just a nice place to be, with perks of really great drinks.
And obviously I mentioned you opened in Aberdeen. Is it because you're from Aberdeen, or was there any reason as to why you chose there?
So I'm originally from Turriff, which is just a little bit further north of Aberdeen, but I've lived in Aberdeen most of my life now. I did live in Edinburgh for a short space of time, and I would love to open something there. I think that would be fantastic, and that's sort of a goal for maybe 2027. But Aberdeen is my home. I'm kind of part of the community now. I've worked with local businesses there, and yeah, I really love the city. It's doing a lot of regeneration at the minute. And I think in 5 years' time, Aberdeen's going to be a very, very different place. And we're kind of going to be a hub for all these amazing culinary experiences. So, Aberdeen it was no question it was going to be in Aberdeen.
And as I said, you've been open for a couple of months now. How's the reception been for the bar? How was it?
It's been incredibly mixed, and I don't think we quite appreciated how polarised people's opinions would be. We've had a lot of comments on social just about, what's the point? It's not really a bar if there's no alcohol and things like that. So that's been really funny. We've taken that on board and done some really funny stuff on social with it, which is great. But on the whole, it's been so positive. Everybody that's come to the bar, we're really fortunate, just had a lovely experience and given us really positive feedback. And I think people who are within the community that needed that space, what's been really heartwarming for me is people talk about how it's so special to them because they've not had somewhere like that before, where they feel seen, they feel safe. We can tailor drinks for people's dietary, everyone can, but people who are either diabetic or they are from a religious background, we can tailor drinks for them, which they've maybe not had before. So yeah, it's really, really wonderful, the feedback we've had, and just how kind people have been, and just how special they found the bar, which is lovely. It's exactly what we set out to do.
And I've said dry January, which is something that people trying to have done for years now, but there is a shift towards a lot of people drinking less or drinking more mindfully, or a lot of young people we're always hearing don't really drink as much. So do you feel like the timing's been pretty good for this as well? You're hitting it at the right time for the sort of change in attitudes towards drinking?
Completely, yeah, absolutely. I think if we'd done this even a year ago, it probably wouldn't have had the same momentum. Something like 76% of Gen Z is now zebra stripes, so they'll go on a night out and they'll have an alcoholic drink and then a non-alcoholic drink, and they'll do that all night long. And the statistics of people drinking less, and the fact that the non-alcoholic beer market is rising day by day. It's really interesting to see what's going on right now in the industry in the UK, and it's really, really exciting. I've actually had 2 messages recently of other people looking to open sober bars elsewhere across Europe, and I think that's so cool. They're looking for some ideas or inspiration, or how we started or whatever it is. So it's a growing. I don't want to say it's a trend, because that sort of implies it's gonna end. I think it's a movement that people are just stepping away from alcohol a little bit more, which is great. It has quite a negative effect on our health that people sometimes don't realise. So I think right now it's great because there's so much going on, and people are really, really interested in it. And it's like you say, Gen Zs and the generations before, I think they are going to be drinking less and less and less. So as we start to move forward and do more things, we will gradually see more expansion of other sober bars or other third spaces that don't rely on alcohol, whatever that might be.
And you mentioned as well, you had a few comments on social media. How has your experience been of being a non-drinker over the years? I know myself, when I don't drink and you're out even with friends, it's always why are you not drinking? And it's always met with like absolute incredible, you've got to have a really good reason rather than you just don't feel like it. Is that, how's your experience been with that?
You're absolutely right. The amount of times that someone said, "Oh, just have one," and then I sit there with sort of a 9-pound gin and tonic and I have 2 sips. And I think, what was the point in that? I'm quite lucky because of my medical condition. My friends are the ones buying me pints of water, and encouraging me to drink the water because they know the effect that alcohol's had on me and the effect of alcohol on the body. So I'm super lucky, but I also know so many people who've come to the bar who don't drink. And for women, they get questions like, "Oh, are you pregnant?" which is really quite a personal thing to say, especially if, I mean, you don't know someone's history, you don't know someone's background and what they're going through. So that can be a tough question. Oh, you're on antibiotics is another one. So there's obviously something wrong with you. Oh, you're boring. My friend actually had that recently. I think there's so many assumptions for people who don't drink that you're either boring or there's something wrong with you or there's a reason why you don't drink. And that's quite frustrating in itself because I have fun without alcohol. I think when you take out alcohol out of the equation and out of your life, you have to build your confidence in other ways. So you will learn a lot more about yourself. And I know that that's the experience my friend had. So yeah, I've been quite lucky, and I don't often get what's wrong with you type questions because people know my health background. But I do know so many people even now who are still questioning as to why they don't drink.
Yeah, no, it is frustrating. And you also mentioned, people coming into the bar and feeling safe, a bit of a safe space. Is that just because there's no alcohol, there's no drunk people, therefore everyone is very aware of what they're doing? And
yeah, no, that's exactly it. We've not had anybody try to cause a fight or get mouthy. We've had no one fall over or trip, spill drinks. Just that general chatter. We've had two guys who've come up from Montrose and Forfar specifically for the bar because they just hate going out and being in that crowd of people that just they bash into you, or they, they're rowdy and it's too loud. The music's too loud. You can't talk and have a conversation. And I always say this, we are such social beings. We need to socialize to function, most of us. Some of us don't. And if we're going out and, there's loud music and there's rowdy people, you can't have that conversation. And I think that's what is a bit different about sober, is that it's still buzzy. You come in and you do feel like you're really in a bar, but you can have a conversation and you can sit down and relax and just feel very calm and at peace, which is such a lovely thing to be able to give.
And can you tell us a little bit about what's on the menu and how you develop the drinks? It sounds like there's a mix of mocktails, and obviously we know we can get non-alcoholic beer as well, but how did you sort of choose what to have?
So the menu is basically the same as a bar. We have cocktails, we have non-alcoholic spirits, we have beer, cider, wine, everything that you can think of that you'd have at a bar. We have shots, we have tequila, so everything that you would find in a normal bar. We wanted to really make sure that we weren't just taking in drinks that were non-alcoholic for the sake of being non-alcoholic. So we really spent a long time researching specific drinks, sampling a lot of drinks, and the ones that we have are what we feel are some of the best on the market. We haven't tried everything. There's so many things that we would love to try. And hopefully in 2026, we'll get to do that. But we have really curated a beautiful bar with great drinks that taste really, really great. And some of them have a functionality as well. So it's not just coming to have a drink for the sake of having a drink. You actually have a benefit from drinking it. So we have some drinks that are cordyceps, so they have mushroom in it, which is for sort of brain fog and brain clarity. We have, what else do we have? We have ashwagandha, lion's mane, which is the mushroom. We have a huge amount of different drinks that do various things, and we're still looking for ways to just sort of develop that and see how we can, expand that range of functionality, whether that is through, adding in herbal tinctures and working with more of that herbologist type thing, which is really exciting. So, we don't just have drinks, we have functional drinks, and drinks are actually good for you, which is also a great thing to have.
I mean, it sounds very much like, as well as being a great place for not drinking, it's, you know, there's a lot of like things out there just now for like women's wellness when it comes to like, you know, certain ages and like all the things that, you know, everyone's now looking into and kind of buying into. So it sounds like it's a good spot for that as well.
Completely. I read something recently which I thought was very interesting, and it's amazing how wine, like a glass of wine in a bath, has been marketed as self-care, whereas a glass of wine is actually, it can be really detrimental and it can make your brain fuzzy and you're not functioning the same the next day and all these different things. And you think, oh wow, that's, you know, how it's come into our society in that way, that self-care is amazing. But you're right, I mean, 90% of, well, probably 85% of our customers are women, and they do, I think, focus a little bit more on health and well-being. You know, we're very more open when it comes to talking about our feelings and things like that, and I think it sort of ties in. One thing that I'm quite keen to talk about more is sort of that male loneliness epidemic and how it actually stems a lot with alcohol. And, you know, if you can't go out and do stuff and be in a normal bar environment because it triggers you for whatever reason, you end up in isolation. So that's something that we're working on actually this year. And later in the year, we have a fantastic influencer called Mikey Banks doing a talk at the bar, who's been in those situations. And yeah, he's a fantastic advocate for the sober community, and I'm really excited to hear more about him and work more with him. So yeah, you're completely right. It is very much a female-driven space, and yeah, we're very focused on our wellness for sure.
And do you have anything else coming up within 2026 that you want to sort of highlight? I know you're open for events and things, you know, as an event space as well.
We are, yeah, absolutely. So we have you can hire the space out for whatever it might be. So I think baby showers is probably going to be such a good one for us. We have drinks that obviously pregnant people can consume. So we can have people at the bar who, you know, are expecting children. We can do, you know, bridal showers, corporate events, things like that, which is great. We're also going to be doing talks throughout the year with various influencers and people within the sober community from various angles. So this Friday, we actually have a talk by Jade Auld, who's Scottish and sober. And she's going to be talking through her sobriety journey, the ups, the downs, like the ugly side of it, the great things that have come from it. And, you know, she comes from the sobriety aspect of, you know, she's a mum and she just kind of stopped drinking because she realized that it just didn't have a great effect on her life. And that, I think a lot of people have. But then we have the talk with Mikey, and, you know, he is coming from sort of, you know, an addiction side and a mental health side, which is really, really important, especially for men. We also have a lady called Kim who is waiting for a double lung transplant, and she's coming in to talk about sobriety from a chronic health perspective and how chronic illness, people like people with chronic illnesses like myself, need to keep going on with their life and enjoying themselves. And that's why sober is so important, because they don't have the alcohol that negatively affects them. And we also have another lady called Sarah who will be coming to do a talk, and she's talking more about the fact that you don't need to hit rock bottom in order to stop drinking alcohol. You know, you can cut out of your life quite naturally. So very, very different angles from different people. And I'm kind of hoping to keep that running throughout the year with various people. And we actually have another person in the pipeline, but we've not confirmed that yet. So I won't talk too much about it, but that is a very, very exciting one. So yeah, and I think sort of 2027, like I said, it would be great to start up something in Edinburgh. We're hoping to do some pop-ups in the summer in the cities and stuff like that. So yeah, lots and lots going on for us in 2026, and it's going to be a really, really fun year.
Well, it sounds great. It's definitely something very different, and the drinks and everything sound lovely. Just before we sign off, how was Christmas? We were talking about, you know, people being drunk and chaotic. I'm assuming it was a very calm, zen space.
It was a very calm, zen space, absolutely. So the way it kind of worked out for us this year, we weren't actually open over Christmas and New Year apart from 2 days, sorry. And one of those was the 27th. So yeah, it was just so lovely. People coming in, celebrating, knowing that they're having a really, really good time, that they're choosing to spend Christmas and New Year slightly differently, and making that change. I mean, Christmas is a very, very difficult time for some people. And, we kind of opened the space up as a welcoming space for those who just didn't want to drink, found it difficult to go out because of, the implications that it might have, the triggers that it might cause. So yeah, it was just a lovely place to be. It was honestly, there's no other word for it. It's just a lovely place to be. And, hopefully we'll just continue that into the new year. And obviously for dry January, everyone's going out and trying to not drink as much. So yeah, hopefully that'll continue.
Nice. Well, thank you very much. And next time I'm up in Aberdeen, I'll need to pop in and try some of the nice calming drinks. Probably for me, it would be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks to Kate and Sonja for being my guests on this episode, and thanks to you too for listening. Please remember to rate, review and subscribe so you never miss an episode of Scran. Scran is co-produced and hosted by me, Rosalind, and co-produced, edited and mixed by Kelly Crichton. And don't worry, for those that do want an alcoholic drink, we'll be back next episode with a whiskey-themed chat.